you love your husband or love your wife, you shouldn't have to dishonor your mother and your father. But let me give some clarity to that. There are some things with the best of intentions that our parents teach us that's not right or might not be the best way. And sometimes problems occur when somebody is dealing with something that their parents taught them that's not right. And God, if that parent is deceased, sometimes that person will hold on to it forever. Because my mama told me this or my daddy told me this. But sometimes we have to recognize, we have to look at what does scripture teach? What principle we want to look at, or whatever mindset we want to go by in terms of who we look for in terms of our values, or what makes sense, you know. So it needs to make sense for you to be able to love your parents and still love your husband or your wife. You should not have to abandon one love in order to do another. Now, I call when I was talking about your uh, the creator, talking about you being the creature, they're talking about the covenant relationship, and talking about also your children. That is your creative family. But we don't want to just look at the creative family. I call it your core family. And your core family is your mom, your dad, your sisters and brothers and things like that. Because you love your husband does not mean that you mistreat your brothers and sisters. But you understand that as an adult, your relationship changes, and you should not everything be about your mama, your daddy, your sisters and brothers, and leave your spouse out in the cold. So again, all of this love takes balance, discernment, and also recognizing the seasons. So I call your siblings your connected family. You connected by blood. You connected by blood. So you got your creative family, your core family, and then your community family. Your community family is everybody else. Your friends, your church, your the other people you know, one another. But we have to be careful that that does not conflict in such a way that it teaches us or it leads us in a way whereas we need to stop loving one in order to love another. And what I mean by that is that it's not wisdom that you have to hate or abandon your core family in order to love your husband and wife, in order to love your children. And recognize that everything is not always cut and dry. You know, we live in a society where we have blended families. We live in a society where people get married at different ages. We live in a time where sometimes a woman may marry a man, and I'm just using that to illustrate it, may marry a man that already has children, and the person is to the age where they're not going to have by choice or biology, or they're not going to have any more children. Excuse me. And so we have to look at that and understand that we have to exercise wisdom. We have to exercise wisdom, balance, discernment, and recognize the seasons in our life. So those conflicts won't, those challenges rather, would not end up being conflicts in how we should love. So we're looking at love on 7 different levels. God being first, creator. Ourselves being second, love yourself. Third being covenant, if you so choose to be married. And I say that because some people choose not to be married. That's their choice, and it's nothing wrong with a person not getting married. If that's their choice, that's their choice. If that's something that did not happen, that's something that did not happen. Some people make career decisions where they decided, well, if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. And some people regret those decisions. Some people don't. It's all a matter of the choices. There's another C that you make in your life. But as you're making these choices, realize that when you love in the right order, that it will have it where you will have less conflict. and less challenges to deal with when you have things in the proper order. Number one is loving God. Number two is loving yourself. Number three is the covenant of marriage if you choose. Number four is children. Number five is by conception, your parents. And that might be biology or they might be by a court. And I say that by court, that might be that you are adopted. That don't mean that you are not loved because you are adopted. You were not birthed out of the womb, you were birthed out of the heart. But you still love. All right? Then the other thing is connected by blood. You sisters and brothers until you die. And even after that, you still sisters and brothers. Connected by blood. Don't mistreat your brothers and sisters because you's married now. That's still your sister and your brother. However, do not allow your siblings to be a conflict in your marriage. Because sometimes folks say, well, if I was you, well, you're not me, and you're not in that situation. The covenant of marriage is of a higher order in terms of the way that God sets things than that even of your sister and your brother, your siblings. And I know sometimes people don't like that, but it's still the truth. Because sometimes a sister or a brother can break up your marital relationship because they don't understand that you now have a larger family. Because, yes, they are still your family, but you still have your husband. You still have your wife. You still have your children. You still have your career, if that's the case. So people have to understand that relationships mature. Okay? As relationships mature, you need to understand, I got things to do, you got things to do. We still love each other, but our time together may not be the same. Our relationship can grow stronger, but it should be in a different way because we're looking at it as adulthood. So again, on the order, God, self, marriage if you choose to, children, your parents, your siblings, and then community. That's 7, y'all. God, self, marriage, children, conception, family, siblings, community, and church, your friends, and things like that. When we do that, we do it in the right order. And when we do it in the right order, we're going to get better results. Now, I have to say this. If you are not loving in the right order, I am not telling you or suggesting in any way to just quit everything and throw up your hands. What I'm saying is do the best you can in love, in balance, in discernment, in the proper seasons. Do the best you can. We make mistakes. When we learn better, we do better. You might be a parent right now that you didn't love in the right order and you put everything before your children. And sometimes people do in the ministry. I have tried my best to be the best husband, the best pastor, the best father that I could be in balance, in discernment, in wisdom, in season. And I know that's a challenge. But when our first love is who we look to, we'll know how to do things and have the guidance to do things in the proper balance so that we can love in the right order. And not only should we love in the right order, we need to understand that love is so valuable. The Bible teaches us about love, and it also teaches us God is love. And I have to say this, don't equate how much someone loves you with how much money they spend, because that's not always and certainly should not be the only factor. It's a whole lot of ways to show love, and no money is involved. Because, and I would especially say this to married people, he does not love you any less if he can afford to buy you $100 necklace than somebody that can afford to buy you a $10,000 necklace. The love is not greater because the price of the gift is greater. Because there's so many ways to love. But in loving, love in the right order. Love with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength. Love God, love self, love your spouse, love your children, love your parents, love your family, love community, love your church. But whatever you do, ask God to give you the proper wisdom to be in balance and discernment in the right season so you'll know how to love. This is Bishop KJ Brown coming to you again. I thank you for joining me. Again, please download and share the podcast. Hope it's being a help for you. And as we leave and end this episode, remember, as I always say, God wants you to win. Be blessed. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning into Building Winning Lives with Bishop KJ Brown. For more information on our Sunday Word lineup, visit us at bishopkjbrown.org and follow us on all social media outlets at Bishop KJ Brown. Please join us next Sunday at 7 a.m. for another episode of Building Winning Lives with Bishop KJ Brown. And remember, God wants you to win.